Hey everyone, Cynics here, and I feel like being productive. So here is part two of our animation activity for Shticks and Schmears. I didn't mention there was going to be a part two, but obviously we have to have a part two because you guys submitted so many amazing little animations that I gotta just compile them all together and share them with everyone. But before we get to that, I thought I would just add in a couple more notes that I thought might be helpful when you're animating in the future. I noticed that on a couple of the animations, you guys had good schmears going on, but the overall pace of the action and the stick moving around was a little too snappy everywhere. It was always going at full speed, and there wasn't really any lull in the action. Pacing is super important when it comes to making your animations look fun and poppy. You want there to be a little bit of slowdown and anticipation, and then quick, sudden movements that catch the viewer by surprise. This will enhance the overall feeling of speed when you actually do throw in those crazy schmear frames. The other main thing I wanted to offer up as a critique was just to make sure you watch out for the schmear frames going a little too crazy. You gotta remember that you only need to smear things if it's moving very far distance in a very short time. If you add smearing effects to a slow moving object, then it kind of creates the appearance that the object doesn't have a real solid form. So a lot of times you'll do it and suddenly the stick looks like it's made of water or jello or smoke or something. So just be careful with that, but obviously it can be used to your advantage if you want to show a form that's not quite solid. All right, before I wrap up this little topic of shticks and schmears, I do want to do a quick little segment on impact because we had a lot of things smearing around and a lot of movement going on, but we didn't tackle impact at all. And I feel like a lot of people want to have more impact in their movements, so we're going to talk just a little bit about that. And what better way to show off impact than to have a little ball flying at us so we can hit it with our stick here. So that's pretty good. I feel like we have a little pitching machine here, just chucking balls our way. Of course, all of the animations I had up until now didn't have any impact, so they just looked like a bat being swung around. And so you can see the little stick here just missing the target. It's just a little off. We're not that good at baseball, and the ball's just getting right by us. But even if the ball was to say go zooming out into space, if we didn't have any impact, it would still look a little weird. The stick certainly doesn't act like it's hitting anything. So let's try that again, but this time we're gonna make the stick actually make contact with the ball. So right when the stick hits the ball, we're going to add a lot of smearing effects, not only on the stick, but on the ball as well. And we're going to make some impact little sparks go flying off in every direction. And that should give us a nice, simple impact. It makes it feel like the ball is being hit off into space. There's a slight little brief pause. It's very hard to see at full speed, but it definitely has a little bit of impact where the ball's just kind of clinging to the stick before it goes flying off into space. So that's a good way to do things, although I feel like we can make it more impactful. This is a very basic approach, and this might be good enough for some of your purposes, but we want to really explore impact. So what we're going to do in this next one is we're going to add an impact frame. And that is just a term for a frame in the animation whose only purpose is to create more impact. I always like to do this in my old stick figure fighting days by just adding a black silhouetted frame. So obviously the background right now is all white and boring and you just have some black lines moving around. But if you invert that so suddenly everything's black for just a quick little frame and maybe the impact is just shown in white, suddenly that makes things feel a lot more impactful. So here you can see that. We're having a little home run derby here in the background, but I think that looks a little more impactful. In fact, I would say that looks a lot more impactful. So if you were going to do anything with impact, I recommend trying to do an impact frame. Just one little frame that kind of punches the viewer in the face a little bit. It gets in your brain. So I'm definitely enjoying that more, but where else can we take it? What's the extreme? Well, I think we can add another impact frame. So we'll have a couple impact frames and we'll space them out just a little bit just to create a little startling effect. And we'll also try jittering the camera a bit. So that's a nice little added bonus if you want to make it look like the camera is actually shaking and the frame hold is just getting twisted by the sheer amount of impact going on. So let's try that real fast. And there we go, that extra couple frames of impact as well as the shakiness definitely makes it look a lot more crazier. So we're just getting more and more nutty, and I'm kind of enjoying it. Obviously, you don't always need to go this extreme, but nonetheless, where else can we take it? What's the farthest extreme we can go to with our impact frames? Well, if you've ever seen something like One Punch Man, you may know that they do just a whole ton of impact frames back to back. So anytime there's a crazy action scene or a crazy punch going on, sometimes there will be, I don't know, maybe 20 impact frames just right after each other, kind of seizure-inducing impact frames. So let's try to add a couple more impact frames. We're gonna have like 5 or 6 of them. And maybe we'll throw in a splash of color as well, just to really emphasize things. Not only does it look like the impact is creating color into this universe of black and white, but we'll also make it create some little glitchy effects as well. So it's just really messing with everything. And here's the finished result. It's pretty silly, but it also looks a little cool. Obviously, if it was something a little more interesting than a stick hitting a ball, it might be better, but I think it's fun. It's certainly an interesting take on things. But in the end, you can see how we went from not having any impact into just going crazy and having tons of impact frames and shakiness in the camera and all that stuff. All right, without any further ado, let's take a look at our full finished feature-length film, Shticks and Schmears, with all of your contributions just stuck together. There's definitely some amazing stuff in here. Well, that was pretty great, and I'd really like to thank everyone who contributed to that. I just wish you all had your names on them so we can see who did everything, where, and what. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you'd like to see more episodes of animation activity stuff, just feel free to let me know, and I'll do some more of them. Alright, thanks for watching, and a big thank you to all of my patrons for making these videos possible. Thanks, everyone.